Hey, what's up everyone? Carl, Rev Hodel here. I just wanted to talk a little bit about what I've learned now that I've been mining Bitcoin in my yurt with the excess solar power. Just giving some chicken. Guests often leave good food behind. We give that stuff to the chickens instead of throw it in the trash. Why not? So several months ago, I started going to Bitcoin meetups to answer some of my more technical questions, and that led me to using Twitter a little bit more. And somehow, John, who's been putting this Pleb Miner Month together with Max at Bit by Bit, had started interacting with me. John had some expertise in mining, specifically mining at home, and so I thought he might be a good person to reach out to ask some questions about mining Bitcoin with the excess solar power. I typically run the miner from 11 or noon to about 3 or 4. And that depends on what the weather conditions are like, if it's been cloudy or not. But so I've got three 330 watt panels. There's a systems box underneath the yurt. You can see right now the batteries are at 26.6 volts. I've seen the charge as high as 29 volts. So the panels feed into the DC breakers, out of the DC breakers, into the charge controller, 80 amp charge controller. So I think I can add up to 3 more 330 watt panels. From the charge controller, it goes into this battery bank, which is 4 6-volt batteries wired together to make one 24-volt battery. And it goes out of the batteries into this 3.5 kilowatt inverter. And from the inverter, I've got AC power going into a 30 amp breaker and then into a GFI outlet, from which I just plug extension cords in together to run power into the yurt and to the outhouse, which powers the miner and the Starlink router. When the miner's not on and I have guests renting the yurt, I'm able to run a mini fridge, 2 fans, some lights, and some things to charge phones and whatever else. So I'm mining Bitcoin with an S9 dialed down to 400 watts inside this outhouse. The reason I have the miner in the outhouse is so that I have access to it while guests are here. So the miner is plugged in via Ethernet port to this Starlink router. And then I just plug that cord into the power strip to turn the miner on, and it runs at about 400 watts. It's very quiet, and you can see the floor has pretty good gaps in it. So as the miner creates heat down low, that heat rises and comes out the top of the outhouse, and that draws the cool air in from the bottom. I'm totally off grid. The power for the Starlink is off solar, and the Starlink is satellite, but it is dependent on the weather, which is unreliable. I haven't been able to mine for the last 4 days because it's been cloudy. In front of me here is a swale. It's a level ditch dug on contour in order to catch the water as it runs down the slope and distribute it across the hillside evenly, passively watering the fruit trees and hazelnuts that I have planted here. So I met John on Twitter because I was posting about permaculture and regenerative agriculture and Bitcoin. Once I learned that John knew something about mining, I felt comfortable asking him a few questions about how to get set up mining on the solar at my yurt. And once John knew I was interested in getting that project going, and he also knew that Chet had a miner to give away, if Chet gave me the miner, maybe I'd have something to give him in a value-for-value exchange. This is a hazelnut. We're planting hazelnut in between the apples as a sheep feed. Once the plants grow up, we intend to let the sheep graze amongst the trees, and we're hoping that they choose to eat the hazelnuts more so than this pear tree, for example. Ultimately, because I had Chet's expertise, I was up and running in less than an hour. Now, once we installed the miner and we had everything set up and running, I took Chet to my pantry and I said, "Here's what I got. What do you want?" And Chet ended up choosing to take a pint of maple syrup, a pint of salsa, a couple heads of garlic. He had picked a peach, and I gave him a few other things. And that sealed our value-for-value exchange. Look, there's some hazelnuts on this bush. First time I've had hazelnuts on these. It's kind of exciting. The S9 miner seems to me to be a symbol of pleb mining and a gateway to it. They allow you to troubleshoot some of the situations that you might come across at a low cost investment. For example, you can learn quickly about how to mitigate the noise, how to mitigate the heat, or utilize the heat. And once you know that, then you can start doing calculations on whether it makes sense to upgrade to more hash power. and it seems to be a very frequent miner that is hashed the torch from one to another. You can see these hazelnuts are quite a bit larger. These rows have been planted successionally. Started at the top of the hill here, planted this row first, then the next row down. This fall I'll be planting 2 more rows further down slope. This whole exchange has really got me thinking a lot about the value of the culture of Bitcoin, in addition to the value of Bitcoin the network and Bitcoin the asset. Since I've become involved in the culture of Bitcoin, I feel that the value of my Bitcoin has increased dramatically. I now have access to people with knowledge and information about the network and technical interactions such as mining, hardware wallets, privacy, so on and so forth. It just goes to show that the culture of Bitcoin and the people attracted to the culture of Bitcoin are very motivated, capable people. They're hungry for the knowledge, and they're hungry to make things happen for themselves and for other people who are involved in this network. So, this is our food forest. In here we have dozens of fruit trees, hundreds of perennial plants, hazelnuts, cherries, peaches, apples, plums, gooseberries, currants, raspberries, strawberries, asparagus, rhubarb, horseradish, comfrey. The idea with the food forest is to mix a variety of plants at different sizes and shapes together in one row. So essentially you're filling all of the potential growing space with plants that you've selected yourself. To summarize, the reason why I'm able to mine with the extra solar power at my yurt was because of my involvement in the culture and community of Bitcoin, the Bitcoin network. The network of people that are involved in Bitcoin are where the value of Bitcoin resides. That's what creates the value of Bitcoin. And the more we can all connect together, interact, collaborate, and cooperate, the more the Bitcoin that we hold will be worth. And so, if you haven't been to a Bitcoin meetup, I suggest you give it a try. I'm appreciative for the opportunity, and I hope I can inspire more people to get involved. Peace out, plebs.